This week's sponsor is Jeff from the War for the Tower podcast, an actual play RPG podcast set in the world of Stephen King's Dark Tower. If you're a Dark Tower fan, and especially if you're a fan of Unspoiled Dark Tower with me and Miles, you'll love the epic gameplay and storyline. If you're not, Shattered Worlds RPG is a space opera actual playtest of Jeff's own role-playing game. It's a fun mix of magic, gunplay, and robots. Check both out on your podcatcher of choice. Search for the War for the Tower podcast or Shattered Worlds RPG.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host switcheroo, etc., etc., etc. Your requests now. Covering chapters 51 and 52, Sansa and Jon. In these chapters, Sansa still hasn't figured it out.
No, she has not.
And Jon gets attacked by his very first white.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jon, buckle up, because these whites are just mean-spirited. You just can't trust the whites, Jon.
You can't trust these white motherfuckers at all.
Welcome to Some Spoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
I just realized, too, that according to the canon, Jon is a black brother being attacked by a white. Commentary. Very trenchant.
Listen, as someone who's been dogged by whites my whole life, I'm just going to say that I understand Jon and being afraid, but also I was here for him bringing that sword right down on his head. Is very satisfying. And then Ghost just ripping out those innards for good measure.
I forgot how long the fight goes on.
Listen, this shit was scary as fuck.
It really was, though.
And I felt like a jackass being as scared as I was reading it.
I was just like, I was listening, and I kept being like, and then he kills it. Nope. Okay. And now it's dead. I had forgot that you've got to burn this bitch.
Bitch, when that hand is crawling up his leg. You guys. Oh, no.
Oh, I love that so much. It's described as a cry of revulsion as he throws it off of him, and I'm
that
like,
is yes, that is correct, sir. This was really good. I mean, it's horrifying and horrible, and the news that he gets and all that stuff is terrible. But I fucking really loved reading this. This was good page turny type stuff I'm talking about.
Page turny,
yeah. But let's start with the sad song of Sansa.
Oh God, that's what's gonna be coming out. That's going to be fucking Marillion's next single that he releases. What a complete contrast to Arya.
Yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's so frustrating because I just really understand everybody's impulse to be like, I like Arya. She can see what's fucking going on. Mm-hmm. I get it, and I totally, understand in my heart. But I really also understand Sansa a lot more this time around than I did the first time.
Right.
I was Sansa with democracy. I was like, we wouldn't do that. That's not how that goes. We don't
You were
do
so
that
cute
anymore.
leading up to 2016. You were adorable.
I really thought.
You really thought we were better than what we were.
100%.
Yeah, well, that'll learn you.
And it wasn't even just that. It was like the myriad of things that, like, leading up to, where I just kept being like, well, obviously, that'll be it. That's the thing. That's going to be the thing. Nobody would do that. Nobody would accept that. No. Of course not.
And then,
sweetie, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I was, it's funny you make the joke about how you were Sansa with democracy, but I was trying to recall if I was ever Sansa-like in any period in my life. And I, without being like too morose, I don't think I ever actually had a good Sansa period, you know? I had probably a little bit more than the recommended daily allowance of realism at a very, very young age.
That sounds right to me.
So I didn't get to be sort of idyllic in this way. And I find that as I'm reading these chapters now, I think the sympathy I have for Sansa is not just like me being a good person. I think I also have a little bit of a longing for wish, you know what I mean, for being that young and that protected. Because honestly, you guys, not for nothing, but when you have children, right, hopefully you are able to raise them in such safety and stability and security that they are allowed to be sort of, you know, leaning into fantasy. You know, because they don't have like the horrors of the real world smacking them in the face all the time.
Right.
And so as much as she can be like irritating, Sansa, as much as she can be like whack compared to Arya, you know, out here kicking ass and, you know, being courageous and all that stuff, I think that what we're seeing with Sansa is, you know, a little girl who, it's not her fault that this is how she interacts with the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I mean, they're now granted, they were on the, you could say, well, they're raising Arya the same way, and she's not like this. But like we talked about last time, Arya is a couple of years younger.
Yeah.
So she hasn't been like hog-tied into this role just yet. And, you know, and she's just different. She's a different makeup, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know?
Yeah.
She's just a different type of person. And I think, I know for a fact that when I was watching the show, I had very little patience for Sansa.
Oh, yeah.
At the beginning.
I mean, reading it, I also had very little patience. So, yeah, I completely understand. That's what I mean, you know? Just, I really get people immediately being like, Team Arya forever. What the hell is Sansa doing? And it's just, I like you said, the two of them being raised together, it can feel like, well, they should have the same understanding and the same values and the same priorities and the same just general grasp of reality. But their priorities as people, like individuals with their personalities, are so different that they are going to hear everything differently. Everything that you can be presented with factual information and interpret it in a variety of ways based on what you already believe and understand about the world. And I have no doubt that Arya spent more time with her brothers than Sansa did. I would imagine that Sansa is surrounded by her mother and the Septa and Jane Poole most of the time.
Yep.
And what are people supposed to say to her?
Mm-hmm.
Are they supposed to be like, don't get attached to the stories that you're reading about your future as like a woman in society, because they're not true, and it's not going to be like that, and it's much worse and less romantic. And I mean, when a girl seems like she is going to be embracing that role, and she lives in a society in which that would be expected of her anyway, you just sort of want to let her and encourage her because you feel like it's going to be easiest in the end.
Right.
So you keep feeding that, And
I imagine, in a perfect world where Catelyn does not, the imminent demise of her family isn't looming on the horizon.
Right.
She probably figures, she will be in a position to give Sansa any kind of real world talk right before maybe she gets married or something,
Right.
But that's probably down the line a little bit. And then all this stuff happens. And she hasn't yet had that talk with anyone.
Yeah.
About how things work in the real world. And that leaves her at a considerable disadvantage because, as we see in this chapter, she is surrounded by people, adults, who are very clear on how things work. Mm-hmm. And she is, like, without any sort of protection. She is just, I hate to say it, but, like, she's just in a den of wolves.
Yeah, she is.
But
not in the way that would be helpful to her.
Exactly, right? Like, I didn't want to use that expression because, obviously. But I don't nowhere else to go. And she's so ill prepared for where she is. Mm-hmm. And it's this where she is, I was tempted to be like, and it's not even her fault. But it just so happens this particular moment, while not completely her fault, she did not help.
No, she didn't.
Because it turns out that while we were reading about Eddard and Arya in the last chapter, Sansa...
Yep, that's when she gets up and runs away from the table.
Yeah. Where she ran to, turns out, is to tell her family's business to the queen.
This is one of the things that I started to blur out. That's where she went. And then I realized that it didn't sound like you remembered that's where she went. And I was like, all right, I'm just not going to fucking remind her.
That is where she fucking went. Now, it's funny because this chapter we get them leading her to the idea of writing her family. Mm-hmm. And that stuff I remember very clearly from the show. But yeah, I had forgotten that she had run and told Cersei that her father was planning on sending them away, because she was that upset because Eddard wouldn't let her go say goodbye to Joffrey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
she does this incredibly short, I don't even want to call it short-sighted. This is it betrays
such a fundamental lack of understanding of her situation that it's like, how can you even be here with them and not understand?
Right.
Yeah, it's like she's living in an alternate reality.
The thing is, Eddard has told her that they are not safe here in King's Landing, and this is why they have to go home. Mm-hmm. But he does not share with the girls where the threat is coming from.
No.
Right? Arya doesn't pick up on the threat being from the Lannisters until Syrio is kind of like, why would her father send y'all? Mm-hmm. And then Arya makes the connection, like, oh, right, these men aren't safe.
Right.
These white men are dangerous. I love that fucking hymn. It makes me want to watch Pocahontas, which I've never seen.
Oh, don't do it, girl. It is...
It's got to be awful, right? I remember when it came out. And
they definitely do the whole... Both sides were not tolerant kind of thing, and it's just... Yeah.
Didn't they really try to play up the love story, too?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, they make her into a grown-ass woman instead of a 14-year-old.
They love doing that shit.
They
don't
love it.
they?
Just like, if you guys have to change that many things about how this went down, maybe that story isn't the one. What do you think?
Right?
Thought we can all just take a step back, look at that, but
Let's keep digging for some better stories to tell.
yeah,
How about
they're
that?
out there.
They're out
There's
there
a
in
trillion
abundance.
fucking folklore and fairy tale. Just go pick another thing. God.
Shit.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I got lost my train of thought. But
I was saying she lives in an alternate reality.
right, yeah. So my point was that their father doesn't tell them explicitly, who to beware of.
Right.
And I think an interesting question, because Sansa is still so certain of Joffrey's goodness, right? That say Eddard had really tried to be like, look, the Lannisters don't see it for us. We gotta go. Because I don't think that would have made a difference. I think she may have still run to try to go see Joffrey. Maybe she doesn't go to Cersei. Maybe she tries to go. I don't know if she thinks she wouldn't go directly to Joffrey because that'd be like unseemly, right?
This is the thing, is like, because I was thinking this as well. Ned does not share what's going on in any real way, and I want to think that it would be different. And it's like Ned having witnesses with Robert in the room, where it's like, it sounds like that would have made the difference. But then when you really step back and look at these characters, you're like, but would it? Because people are who they are to such a degree in these books that they're just going to do what they do every time. Even when circumstantially some other things are different, they are well drawn enough. You could change some of our circumstances as real people, and we'd often do the same thing that we would have done in the first place. So I kind of think you're right, that like, he tells her, and she's not really going to believe him. And she would think of all the people that she could go to safely, Cersei would be one of them, because she just believes so deeply in Cersei's gentleness and queenliness. She just really fucking doesn't get it.
Yeah. She believes in the station and what she thinks you must be to sit in that seat.
Yep.
It's like when you, in real life, you think, hey, maybe a cop's a good person because, you got to be a good person to be a cop, right? Turns out that is not true.
It ain't true, folks.
So she has like this idea that, being a queen, especially as beautiful as Cersei is,
Yeah.
she's just everything that Sansa probably imagined a queen would look like and sound like and behave like. She's like perfectly cast for this fantasy of hers. And same with Joffrey. He's very handsome. That's pretty much all he's got going on for him. Really, he's really handsome.
Yep.
And for a little girl, these when we have an opportunity to make the reality match our dream, like, we're not going to do a lot of digging to undo that.
It's true.
You're like, oh, this thing meets my expectations. I'm not going to be like kicking the tires on it.
It's so true. It's like almost embarrassing how true that is, man. I don't want to be that easy to fool. But, like, I swear to God, I want what I want. And if you, like, let me think that's what I'm getting, yeah.
I'm happy all day. Yeah.
I really kind of appreciate that George R. R. Martin, there's a point at which Cersei's trying to present an alternate version of how things could go to Sansa. And in this version, Joff's king already, and she's marrying the king. And Sansa has to, like, take a breath, because the suggestion of, and then you'll marry the king, just the words of it, is a lot, you know, for her to take in. And I really appreciated in this moment that George R. R. Martin could have made Sansa sort of, like, just dazzled by power in a way that's very different than how it is in his book. He could have made her just be like, but I really want to be queen.
Oh,
with this,
yeah.
ambition to it.
Yeah, there's no
it's not
power
that.
hungriness in her at all.
It's just the fairy tale of it. It's just like that I would be living in a dream kind of thing. And man, she has absolutely zero compassion for Jane Poole, by the way.
Yeah, this thing with Jane. All right, so they come and get her. They come and get Sansa out of. They've been holding her for 3 days, and Jane has been with her, and they haven't been mistreated or anything. But it's very clear that something is amiss.
Yeah.
And she's being held against her will, and she hasn't seen her father. She doesn't really know anything that's been going on.
Yeah.
They finally bring her out, and it is Cersei. Are they in the throne room? Or are they in, like,
I think they're in the small council room.
Small council room.
I think.
Joffrey is not there.
Right.
But it is Cersei and her merry band of, I don't know.
Indeed.
Pycelle's there.
Toadies.
Toadies, yes. Ugh.
Oh my God, I forgot about, just real quick, before she gets taken out. There's a moment, because Jane is crying nonstop. And Sansa's trying to comfort her by saying, like, I'm sure your father's fine, and I'll make sure they let you see him. And Jane gives her this look, and then bursts into tears even harder than before. And Sansa's thought in response to this is, she was such a child, in, like, italics. And the irony of that, when, you know, she's broken because she finally gets it, and fucking Sansa's still not there. But she's the one pointing at this girl, telling her she's being
childish.
A child. And it's just, oh God, girl. Oh, you hate to see it. So, and anyway,
they take Jane, but I don't know where she goes.
Eventually, that'll be later, because they talk it over with Peter. Remember, they set a whole thing up with him?
Oh, God, that's right.
Because the Queen didn't want Jane put in the room with Sansa.
Right, she's upset about that.
She intended Sansa to be isolated from everything and just, you know, thinking it was all going all right. And instead, she's been closeted with somebody who knows what's going on and is in hysterics.
Right. She's very lucky that it didn't matter. Sansa didn't, like, pick up on anything. And
it's like 3 full days that they're locked away with Sansa trying to talk to somebody and get them to, like, take her to see anyone. And they just they ignore her.
Yeah. And because the Jane Poole character doesn't appear in the show, I have absolutely no idea what's going on with that. Except the little bit that I know about what happened in season 5. But I don't know exactly how she... Oops, sorry about that. How she gets to that point. So she's in the little small council room, and they are talking about what to do with Sansa. Right? And there's a lot of, you can't trust her, you know, children of traitors, and she's fine now, but what will she be in a couple years? And it is so upsetting and rage-inducing to listen to these people talking about her in this way when they are all lying liars who lie.
Yep.
You know, like, they're talking about this treason of her father, which if you forget, like, to hear them talk for a split second, I forgot that he didn't do shit. Like, I had to remind myself.
I love that.
That these people are full of shit that, he didn't do any of the shit they're talking about. Mm-hmm. And it is so wild that not only do they not have any problem at all with lying and terrorizing a little girl. Terrorizing.
Someone, they're terrorizing this girl.
But, that they're doing it in such a way that she actually feels like she owes them a debt of gratitude for sparing her. Mm-hmm. It's such a mind fuck. It is just,
gaslighting.
It's really gross.
Yeah. I just, the manipulation here is so expert. It's so well done that I'm almost impressed.
But the thing is they're doing it to a little girl, and how hard is that?
Well, it's not even that it's hard to get her to agree. It's more that I get the impression they maybe didn't. Well, maybe they did. I'm like, if this feels like a freestyle, this feels like a bit of an improv bit, and they didn't really rehearse it, but they all just know their roles so well, they don't need to. And they're just playing off each other because they've been on Whose Line Is It Anyway for 6 years together, and they know. And there's just something so streamlined about each of their comments is exactly on point for what's going on and what they're trying to get her to do. And Pycelle is especially gross to me.
Yeah.
Because Varys, we have been knowing, you can't trust this bitch. He is Shade Street. But Pycelle, it's been more like, yeah, your daughter, an old man, what do you know? You feel like if he's saying anything that's wrong, it's because he just is too old and foggy to know better.
Right. Up until this point, it was unclear exactly what his motivation was. Mm-hmm. He's so simpering that it was. I guess it is an act that works for him, though.
Yeah,
it's a way to disarm people.
And he, I want to say to his credit, but not really because he's doing it anyway. He won't make eye contact and shit. He's super obviously a little ashamed of being asked to partake in this whole thing, but he's doing it. Because I think Cersei's got him by the balls a bit. So yeah, they basically they play on her alleged love of Joffrey, which just stop it, Sansa. Oh, I love him, bitch. What's his favorite color?
You don't even know him.
Tell me anything about him. But other than that, he enjoys killing animals, which doesn't feel like a great sign. But yeah, they use this fierceness of just determination to fulfill the fairy tale and tell her that they would be willing to let her marry Joff if she convinces her family to stay loyal and not call their banners and not do a whole thing.
Right.
And it's every step of the way, Cersei's like, oh, Joff would be so proud of you. I know how much he loves you. Good.
They have her really Sansa thinking to herself that, once again, her family could ruin this for her. Much in a way that she accuses Arya of ruining, everything. She talks about, her mother or her brothers, refusing to kneel and just getting in the way. And if she can convince them to stand down, that somehow all of this will just work out.
Yep.
And they've told her that her father is a traitor, and she does not believe it.
Nope.
But
she tries to say at one point, just let me go and talk to him. And they're like, oh, so you can go be traitors together? Traitoring? I don't think so, kid. We see what you're doing, you sly boots. Ugh. shut up. So yeah, it says, in the end, she wrote 4 letters to her mother, the Lady Catelyn Stark, to her brothers at Winterfell, to her aunt and her grandfather as well, Lady Lysa Arryn of the Eyrie and Lord Hoster Tully of Riverrun. By the time she had done, her fingers were cramped and stiff and stained with ink. Jane Poole and all her things were gone when Sir Mandon Moore returned Sansa to the high tower of Maegor's Holdfast. So, yeah, Jane Poole, I had said that we would get to that, and then we, completely skipped over it. I'm trying to find the moment where she basically... So, Sansa was confused. Where's Jane's father? Why can't Sir Boros take her to him instead of Lord Peter having to do it? Because what Cersei says is, Boros, escort this girl to Lord Peter's apartments and instruct his people to keep her there until he comes for her. Tell her that Littlefinger will be taking her to see her father. That ought to calm her down. I want her gone before Sansa returns to her chamber. So, yeah, she's gonna lie or she's gonna fib in the way that you're like, yeah, we're taking you to see your dad. He's a corpse. But you'll get to see him, and he'll be dead, and
Jesus
then we'll
Christ.
move on. But yeah, at this point, Sansa tries to defend her. Where are you sending her? She hasn't done anything wrong. She's upset you, the Queen said gently. We can't be having that. And yeah, she goes back to her rooms after all of this. Jane's gone. She sits down to, read, and has a ton of time. And it's literally not until she's about to fall asleep that it even occurs to her to wonder what happened to Arya.
That's the most
Not a good
damning
look.
thing, I think, of all of her behavior, is that moment there.
Yeah.
That is a little hard for me to forget.
Agreed.
Not that she's asking for my forgiveness, but I'm just saying, were she to ask, she might not get it.
Yeah, it's a really great illustration of the whole lady being killed, signaling a sacrifice of family and familial ties. Just how it really, everything that she thinks of her family in this chapter completely revolves around continuing to live out a fantasy that she has. And none of it is about their well-being, the danger that they might be in, where they are, what they've been told. It's all about, I want the thing.
Yep.
I have to make sure that I get the thing and get them to do what they need to do.
Yep. And it is probably the most damning thing. And it later on, we get to Jon's chapter, and he says the thing about the girls not having their wolves anymore. I was just like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
You have no idea how bad it's gotten.
Yeah. I really appreciate that he even thought of that. You know, that he stops and he's just like, oh my God, they're going to be entirely alone.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, man? I sort of appreciate you because... there's just a compassion and thoughtfulness there that, not saying they necessarily deserve at all.
Excuse me.
What's that now?
Sorry.
Are we boring you?
A little bit.
No, you bitch.
It's not like we get to see anyone else have this kind of thought and compassion and caring about their situation. So, it's very reassuring to hear someone somewhere go, shit, I hope the girls are all right.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. It's just I'm feeling such a way about the fact that she didn't even think about Arya. That the fact that Jon is really thinking through how they must be doing. I'm just well, okay, thank you. Somebody's doing something. So, yeah, that's the end of her chapter, and then we go into Jon. Now... Jon's is a long chapter, actually. But we start off right where we left, where they have found the bodies of the men who were killed, who they think both are Ben Stark's men. And we hear in this chapter that Jon has basically kind of come to terms with the fact that Ben has to be dead.
Yeah.
It's like he hopes for the best, but too much time has passed, and he's not a fool, and he's just kind of like, yikes.
But it definitely stings to hear whenever it's discussed as though it's a fact or a given. He has this sort of like reflex of being like, well, we don't know for sure. You know? Yep. Which is understandable because, you know, that's when there's no body, you know, it's just like there's no closure. It's just open.
Yeah.
And that's where he's existing right now, is in this, you know, the reality of the likelihood that his uncle is still alive is very thin, but it's something to hold on to. And so I like that we get Sam shining in his way in this chapter. They are all standing around looking at this corpse. First of all, it's so funny how, and this is just true, I think.
I just think it's funny how.
In, you know, the phenomenon of a group of people can be all looking at the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's they're, you know, experiencing the same TV show or action or work situation or whatever it is, and you all see it, and then it takes one person to point out something that's not right.
Right.
And then suddenly the rest of the group will be like, oh, you know what? And what about this? And oh, yeah, I saw that too. But if...
Oh, did you?
You know, but like if one person doesn't pipe up, then like no one's going to say anything. Mm-hmm. Because it takes Sam to be like, first of all, where's all the blood? Mm-hmm. There should be lots of blood. Look at that wound where his hand is, you know, and why it, you know, just pointing out everything that's wrong with this scene. And then the other guys are like, you know, I don't remember his eyes being blue. Like, why wouldn't you say that?
Right, that feels significant.
You know?
Just a little bit.
Like, both of them have these...
Allegedly, we all know this dude. Like, come on.
And so that part just really made me laugh because it just is, I think... just kind of human nature where you don't want to be the one that like rocks the boat, you know, because when they're on the scene and the people in charge, Commander Mormont is there, and then is Jaffer or Jafer?
Let me look.
Somebody is there. And it seems...
Yeah, Jafer.
It seems like they're running it, you know, they're running this crime scene. and they're, you know, theorizing on maybe what had happened, you know, what had happened. Was it wildlings, you know? And no one is putting up an alternate view. They're just going to let them talk about this, and that's just going to be it. And Sam actually just blurts out, No.
I love him in that moment so much.
Because he's so awkward and like speaking up, especially to the Lord Commander, but really to anybody. That is not how our Sam gets down. You know, that is not, he's not that guy. But the amount of wrongness that he could not abide it.
I fucking love it so much. There is just a point in the he drew a line in the sand. I will let y'all talk shit up until you just start fucking stating factually incorrect stuff, and then here we are. And I can relate to that, honestly.
Yeah. And I love that it's just a no. Like it's not a, you know, excuse me or anything. It's just a no. As someone who fantasizes about just yelling no for no reason in the middle of the day, I just really felt this with my spirit.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. It turns out, like you said, that the blood is wrong. Take that however you would like. But what it boils down to is basically like, the whole way that this guy's corpse should be decomposing hasn't happened. And there isn't blood everywhere. Right. When this is like a fucking slaughter.
Yeah.
There should be blood all over.
Because one of the guys is saying something like, because the body hasn't decomposed, he's theorizing that these guy's been dead like a day. Mm-hmm. And that's what pushes Sam over the edge, and he's just like, no. Look at this. Like, you guys are all looking at this crime scene, but nobody is really looking to see what's actually there. And there is a shit ton of clues. There's no, no maggots or worms. There's no decomp. The smell is very slight. The blood is all wrong. You know, these are all things that you would think they would have picked up on. These are like seasoned men of the watch, you know. But for whatever reason,
they're doing a little bit of a Sansa, actually, because they're kind of seeing what they think they're supposed to see. You know,
yeah, it feels like a theme.
This is this is what fucking Syria was saying. The whole just look with your eyes.
Yep. And it turns out like most of us don't do it, even when we think we are. I mean, not to get like whatever, but before we started recording, I was talking to you briefly about the situation in Rochester. Yeah. And that's another, you're not seeing what's in front of you. You know, you're seeing something, you know, whatever your mind is projecting, but it is not the reality of what is standing right in front of you.
Yeah.
And it took, I don't know if it's because Sam is still so new to the watch, you know, he's able to just see what's there as opposed to what everybody else is doing.
Right.
Or maybe it's because he's so timid, or he feels separate enough from like the Rangers and the people, you know, the higher ups or whatever, that he just doesn't seem to be. It's almost like I know it's not magic, but like if it were like a glamour of some sort, right?
Wait, if what were a glamour? Like, I'm not following what you're getting at here.
Like, so the Night's Watch, the crew that's out there, right? They're all looking at this body, and they're all seeing the same thing. Okay. Right? They're missing all the little clues that Sam is pointing out. And it's as if they're all seeing just what they expect to see when you find a body that's been in the woods, right? You just expect it to be a certain way. And they don't notice that this body doesn't fit any of those descriptions. So,
gotcha.
So then my next question is, why or how was Sam able to see what was really there?
I think, honestly, he is so focused because he's so frightened that he is seeing with his eyes in a way that everybody else is sort of like unmoved. That's what I mean.
That's why I said it was almost like a glamour, even though I know it's not a literal spell. Just that the rest of the team fell so easily into seeing seeing the same thing. But Sam is so apart from them. I like your point that he's just so hyper focused. Also, he didn't want to look, and Jon had to really encourage him to look. And then once he started looking, he couldn't turn away.
This is a real Bran moment. Bran watching that guy get his head chopped off, where Jon's like, "Father's gonna know if you look away," and then Bran like is just staring.
Like a weirdo.
I mean, I can't help but think if I was forced to watch somebody be executed, there would also be a like gruesome fascination as well for me, and I would just sort of stare also because like if you're gonna make yourself look, then you may as fucking well do it.
I have no idea what I would do.
Yeah,
no idea.
I can feel your whole self rejecting just the thought of it. It's just like, I don't know. Anyway, moving right along.
That's kind of what happened. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, no. Mm-mm. So, all that to say, Sam is able to see what is right in front of him when others are not. And then once he begins to point these irregularities out, then the rest of the group is like, oh, yeah, how about that? And look at this other weird thing, too. So, they decide they're going to take the bodies back. So, Mr. Eamon,
yeah.
And the horses are like, nah.
Oh, God. Yep, that's about the size of it.
The dogs also, nah. So
we're good.
They have to like build these raggedy ass.
I'm gonna head out.
And they just build this kind of sled contraption, wrap the bodies up, and take them back so that they can be looked over and inspected. Mm-hmm. And they get back to Castle Black, and I think Jon has to go take care of the horse and everything, and Commander Mormont is told that he's needed like right away. Right. And we know what that is. Yeah. And Jon is, people are looking at him kind of funny.
Yep. Because apparently everybody fucking knows already because they overheard somebody reading the letter out loud, which is such horse shit. I hate that everybody knows before Jon even goes in there. Yeah. Like, it's so embarrassing.
And it's a while because he, goes to put the horse up, and then I think he stops and talks to some people about some shit. Because when he finally goes upstairs, the other guy is like, Commander Mormont has been asking for you. And Jon is like, yeah, I probably should have came straight up, but I didn't. And he sits Jon down and makes him take a drink like a man. So it's really this part. Sit down. Take a drink. That's just...
Jon just stands there and looks at him, and he's like, what did I fucking just say to you?
That is some real 1970 father energy happening right there. I'm about to give you
him a cigarette.
Terrible news. So here's a smoke and a stiff drink.
Yep.
And he tells that the king is dead, and that they're saying Ned is a traitor and tried to steal the throne from the rightful heir, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, what is Jon going to do?
What is he going to do?
What can he do? He took the black, so, and fucking Commander Mormont is just doing this, These are not your problems anymore. It is of no concern to us. And you know what? I get it in theory.
Yeah.
It's been like 6 months that Jon's been at the wall. I feel like that's kind of early. Soon. To be expecting him to be able to separate himself completely from what's going on with his family and the rest in the real world.
Yeah.
And he tells Jon not to do anything stupid, to which I go, have you not met this young man?
Oh my God.
Because something stupid is exactly what is on the agenda.
That's literally on the list every day. It's breakfast, wash my face, something stupid. Number 3. After he brushes his teeth.
And does something with that hair.
Oh, Jon, your hair.
So, his friends are great.
Yes.
Everybody is like, we don't believe it for a second. Your family is honorable. Your father is honorable. He would never.
Like, their names are literally practically a synonym for honor.
Basically.
Where you're like, oh yeah, they're Stark-like, That's like the thing that people say.
So, this lie doesn't make sense to anyone, and no one is buying it. Mm-hmm. But Jon is still reeling, And Sam, he's so cute, you guys. He offers to go pray with him.
I love that so much.
It's the fucking best. And I'm not even like a praying person, but I think all right, quick sidebar. I am not somebody who necessarily likes to be told I'll pray for you. You know, I don't have any control over what you do for me. But like when people who I don't know say it,
yeah,
or might have a blessed day.
Have a blessed day is aggressive.
I think so too.
In my opinion, that is getting right up in my face.
And
I don't like it.
I don't care for it either. And when I was living in the South, it was a real problem. It was a real problem for me.
Yeah, that's said down here a whole lot.
So, however, the offer to pray with me, I find really moving. And I don't understand. I can't really articulate the difference. I guess because one is offering to be with me in my whatever it is I'm experiencing, my sadness, my grief, whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. And the other is like, you're going to do something for me.
Or to
me, you know? That is really about you and your relationship to whatever it is that you pray to, and has very little to do with me and whatever it is that I may be in need of prayer for. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when Sam says that, I just like single tear. It's just so sweet, and they.
We're brothers now, so your father's my father.
Yeah.
Also, just really like. Oh.
Yeah. It's a good moment. And then they have dinner, and the stupid happens.
Jon manages to keep it in his pants for like a minute, and we're all very proud. But it doesn't last. Because Alistair Thorne is just one of those fucking people.
I hate him so much.
Who knows how to get at a person.
I hate him.
And he says not only a bastard, but the bastard of a traitor. And Jon basically blacks out.
Yeah, he does.
He wakes up and his friends are like all laying horizontally over him. And being like, no, what are you doing?
He has his knife out and runs down that fucking table before his brain even could catch up to what he was doing. And his friends, like you said, they have to just lunge at him and tackle him like a fucking football player.
I cannot tell you how hilarious this was to me in my head. I know it's an awful thing that he's going to get in trouble for, but like, Alistair sucks so bad. I just am. The only regret, not really, but the only regret is that Jon doesn't get any fucking like cuts in.
Yeah. I mean,
and I know it would have gone much worse for him if he had, but I stand by it. I said what I said.
He could have at least got like a little slash on the cheek or something. Mm-hmm. But his friends practically save his life by keeping him from murdering that man while he's trying to eat his soup. And he kicks the bowl out of his hands, and for some reason that just killed me.
He kicks it. He doesn't even swipe it.
He punts that shit.
It's just like, there is something, I think that might be what it was. Doing something with your foot that you're supposed to do with your hand is always funny. And doing it with your foot instead of your hand when you're like getting aggressive, it's like, on the one hand, all right, dude, we get it, you're mad. But on the other hand, it's like, oh my God, did you see how high he just kicked? That is honestly a little intimidating. Maybe we should be worried for Alistair. Like, we got his knife out of his hands, but that foot, who knows? fat lip now.
You want to keep your eye on that foot.
Yeah, you got a Jackie Chan over here or something.
So he has suspended.
Or what's the other one? Walker Texas Ranger, where they just have like a foot on a stick that they like swing past the camera.
What?
Have you not seen Rashawn? Okay, I'm going to find a link right now. So Conan O'Brien had a whole bit for a while where he had a lever next to his desk on stage, and the bit was he would pull the lever and it would play a random Walker Texas Ranger clip.
Okay.
And honestly, it sounds like a weird bit, and it is, but it was pure genius. I don't know who came up with this idea. I don't know. They deserve everything, frankly, because I've never watched that show, and I never will. But the Walker Texas Ranger clips that I have seen make it look like a parody of itself, combined with like a 5-year-old's like G.I. Joe like storyline. Like it's just barely coherent, and the shit that I gotta find one so that I can send it to you so that you can see the foot, because that for me is the part that I always find amazing. Is like there'll be a standoff with somebody and he'll like kick the gun out of their hand. There is no reason why you like kicking a gun out of somebody's hand should work. They have their finger on the trigger and you have to move your whole body and swing your leg up, and that's not that you can't do that fast. Shut up! You can't do that faster than a person can pull a trigger.
Why is he kicking guns out of people's hands?
Because he's such a badass.
Doesn't he also have a gun now?
Yeah, but he can't reach for the gun because what if they shoot him
my
first? He has to kick them because that makes sense.
Oh Jesus!
That's stealth.
That's fucking ridiculous.
So the one of my favorite ones is a guy who looks like he's escaping and he runs out the door after like holding a place up, and I am not kidding, a foot just comes from past the door jamb and you don't see Walker at all because I'm guessing he's not there, but you see a foot that I'm certain is on the end of a broomstick. And the guy just goes flying. Like, that's my other favorite part, is that these guys react as if they've taken a blow from, like, a loaded barbell, even though it's a tap. Like, it doesn't look like the kind of hit that they are behaving like it is. So they just, it's like, you know, if I punched you and you went flying through a wall, you know, and it's not like a Marvel movie punch, it's just me and a regular punch, but that's how they show you going through a wall.
That's
so anyway, I'm going to find it and I'm going to send it to you.
Is that
and
Chuck
Owen,
Norris in that?
Yeah.
Oh
yep.
my God. Oh my God. Well, that explains a lot though, because he's like the martial arts guy.
I'm texting Owen, send Rashawn all the Conan Walker Texas Ranger clips, because he is the one who showed them to me, and I have seen them several times now, and you would really think that they'd be old. No. They are so insane that I don't think they'll ever get old, because I have to like make myself believe that these were actually aired on television.
I'm pretty
labor.
sure the show was huge too.
Did you know,
they just did a reboot
with Armie Hammer? That's my favorite toothpaste.
Wait, no, I thought it's the kid from Supernatural.
Oh, is it? I thought Armie Hammer was in a thing.
It's he's been all over the news for some gross stuff lately, but I could not be bothered to click on a single link, so I don't know any of it. But the tall kid from Supernatural, not the one I like, the other one.
Oh, I forgot about this. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Reboot Walker Texas Ranger. I love that. Reboot Walk-in Clinic. No Google. Jared Padalecki.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's what, 6'10"? Something insane.
Something ridiculous. unnecessarily tall is what I call it.
I'm looking at some imagery of him, and I mean, he's certainly hotter than fucking what's his face was.
I got no use for him at all.
I don't think, like, he's not really my type, but that was a major thing for me as a kid, was I had heard about Walker Texas Ranger being, like, sort of like a male fantasy, and so I assumed the guy was going to be, like, super ripped and hot. And when I saw who it was
just old
just looked
Chuck
like
Norris.
he's like Al Borland or something. Like, for me as a kid, it was like, this is a dad. What? He's got a paunch. What are you talking about? And it was just sort of disillusioning to me, because, like, a woman who looked like that was never going to be a fucking, like, superhero type. And so I sort of, like, you know, I know it's problematic, but beauty standards are becoming unrealistic for men too. Equality. Yay. But yeah, anyway. Sorry guys, I got really, really sidetracked.
That foot thing really took you down a road.
It's just, I wish that I'm gonna tell him specifically to zero in on the foot one. Because that's the one that it's beyond belief how bad it looks. That's the one that is in particular so funny to me. Okay, so he kicks the soup bowl out of Alistair Thorne's hands.
Is grabbed up by his friends and put in a cell overnight. And Lord Commander is disgusted. Had high hopes for him. Mm-hmm. But now doesn't look good. And
it does not.
He lets Ghost spend the night in the cell with Jon just because he felt sorry for him a little bit. And that turns out to be the most important thing that anyone has done so far in this book.
Yep.
Is letting that direwolf spend the night in the cell. Jon has a really weird dream, too. Is it at the beginning of this chapter where he talks about having the Winterfell dream again?
I'm trying to see, because it starts off with them in the woods looking at the body, so it's definitely not then.
Maybe he has the dream in the
I don't think so. I will not sleep tonight, Jon thought.
Oh, yeah,
He
no.
must have dozed.
No, it's at the very beginning of this chapter.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so he's, like, thinking back on it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And the dream was that he is at Winterfell and he's down in the crypts. But this time, they open and they start... it sounds like the bones are starting to come, like, right out of the crypts. And he wakes up before he sees anybody. And he is really shook. He doesn't go back to sleep. And that's how the beginning of this chapter, started. So then he dozes off overnight in the cell, and he wakes up because Ghost is freaking out.
Yep.
And, I mean, seriously freaking out.
Yeah, it's a moment where Jon's like, Ghost, don't you recognize me? He's like, turns around and starts growling at him. Mm-hmm. And then Jon notices, first of all, that it's gotten really, really cold. Mm-hmm. And then he looks down and sees all these gouges in the wood and is like, what's going on?
This part...
3 quick steps brought him to the door. He grabbed the handle and pulled it inward. The creak of the hinges almost made him jump. almost made him jump. His guard was sprawled bonelessly across the narrow steps, looking up at him. Looking up at him, even though he was lying on his stomach.
Yeah, this is when I started to get, like, the heebie-jeebies. First of all, twisted around head is always going to get me, like, taking 2 steps back.
Yeah, that's never something that we're excited to see. Thank you very much. It's just so... It's the kind of thing that it feels like it shouldn't actually be possible. Mm-hmm. Like, that technically it's possible, but you feel like it has to be a cartoon for that to actually happen. And there are some things that fall under that sort of heading where looking at it, you're seeing it in front of your face, and you still can't believe that it's happened because it looks so wrong.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's what I was going to say. It's one of the few things that are just, when you see it, you know in your whole body that it is just wrong. You know it is not supposed to be the way you are seeing. Yep. And there's a handful of things in the world that I think have that sort of impact where it's just the wrongness of it is just so overwhelming. It's even more than just being terrifying. It's wrong as in, like, unnatural.
Exactly. Yep. So he follows a ghost, basically. He takes the guard's sword, and he hears Mormont's raven, which is just so fucking
this motherfucker
mouthy.
has
Shut
been,
the fuck up.
He has been yapping nonstop this whole chapter. And, you know, I'm a huge fan of ravens and crows, but this motherfucker.
This thing is just so, like, just mind your own business. So, fight. Ghost sleeps. Jon fights. Ghost gets caught. Jon gets him free. Then Jon gets caught. Like, they both trade places being at risk several times.
Yeah.
And within the fight, he recognizes Othor, who's fucking dead, man. We saw him. He was a corpse.
Yep. And now he's, you know, lurking about down at the cells and now up at in the commander's room wearing a cloak. Where did he get this cloak from?
I think he took it off the
guard.
Yeah, I think so.
Was he embarrassed?
What, Jon?
No, Orthor, or whatever his name is. Why did he need a cloak? He wasn't chilly.
I don't think he was naked when they found him.
No, but he's like missing limbs and his innards. Maybe he's bashful.
You know what? I'm just gonna let that bit go because I'm confused enough. I don't have anything to
Why
offer.
would he grab a cloak? What does he need a cloak for? He's a fucking...
Why do you think they didn't find him wearing it?
Maybe...
And his corpse didn't just have it on.
Okay. All right, maybe that. That's better than him taking it off of the jailer. If he already...
I thought you were talking about Jon for a second, that like it mentions that he had a cloak, and I thought, oh, maybe he just grabbed it.
No.
I didn't even know who you meant.
No, okay. I meant the white.
Yeah, I'm assuming that he, like, and it was probably, like, coated in blood, and they were just like, yeah, we're just going to leave that, you know? Oh, and I forgot, too, that Jon drops his sword, and he's, like, fucking looking for it when he opens his mouth to scream, and the white jammed its black corpse fingers into Jon's mouth. Gagging, he tried to shove it off, but the dead man was too heavy.
No.
Its hand forced itself farther down his throat, icy cold, choking him.
No.
I completely forgot about this, and this is honestly the most disturbing fight I have ever read. This reminds me of, there's a moment in Alien. Do you remember this? When the android guy rolls up like a newspaper or a magazine, and he attempts to kill what's-her-face by just shoving it like into her mouth through the back of her skull.
Oh. Ooh, I haven't thought about that in a long ass time.
It's such a weird way to try and kill somebody. I guess because they don't have really weapons on board or something, but like they do. It's just like he's trying to do what he can with whatever's in the room. And they're just, like, in the lounge. So he's like, okay, I guess I'll kill her with a magazine. But, yeah, it's like, there's something so intimate about killing somebody in that way. You're already fighting hand-to-hand, so that's still pretty intimate.
Yeah.
But going in through somebody's mouth is just particularly, like, invasive and horrifying.
Yeah.
Violating.
I mean, and then considering what it is that Jon is fighting...
Yep.
you know, is it? I mean, it's the hand with the fingers because he says he has fingers in his mouth, right? So at least it's not like the stump. But oh my god,
gross. Even if it was the stump, that'd be better because it wouldn't reach down as far.
I mean, that is a plus side. I wouldn't say better. It's a plus, but better feels like a bit of a reach.
So Jon looks up at this point, and Ghost has like jumped on the corpse and taken it off him, and he rolls over and sees Lord Mormont standing there, stark ass naked, staring. Like, what in the
He's trying
fuck?
to wake up.
And the Raven starts yelling, "Burn!"
Which is like the first time that, like, he's been screaming corn, and then a couple times he just repeated whatever Commander said. But this time he's got some ideas.
Yes. What do you think?
I mean, Jon hadn't said anything out loud about burning anything, right?
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so either.
No.
I don't know. I mean, it's got to mean something, but I don't know. The only other thing I know about ravens in this book is what's going to happen to Bran. And I'm not going to sit here and say that maybe Mormont's raven is like a three-eyed raven. Because that's just crazy talk. So, I honestly don't know. I mean, there was talk about burning those bodies, but that was way out in the woods. And they decided not to because he wanted to bring them back to the castle for Maester Aemon to look at. Or Aemon. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's up with the bird. But he's right, though. He's fucking right.
I mean, that's the thing that's so creepy. It's not something that they had thought to do. It's not like somebody else suggested it and the crow repeated it. And this is the first time they've ever dealt with one of these things. So why would the crow know? Why would they know?
I mean,
I
don't know how long crows live. Maybe this crow has been around. Like, did Mormont inherit this crow from the last commander?
It's a good question.
I mean,
I do not know.
This crow might have just seen some shit over the years. You know? I don't know. Fuck. I can't even say that he maybe heard the Meister talking about it, because as far as I know, this hasn't come up in conversation. And this is Mormont's bird anyway, so I don't know, guys. I don't know what to make of that.
So, yeah, Jon rips the drapes off the window. He has an oil lamp, and he, like, throws the oil lamp into the cloth, and it just, like, has wrapped around sort of the corpse. Let's see. The direwolf wrenched free and came to him as the white struggled to rise, dark snakes spilling from the great wound in its belly. Jon plunged his hand into the flames, grabbing a fistful of the burning drapes, and whipped them at the dead man. "Let it burn," he prayed, as the cloth smothered the corpse. "Gods, please, please let it burn." And that is the end of his chapter.
Yeah.
Oh.
I had forgotten that this happened, by the way, guys.
It's really a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really dramatic thing to have happen right in the first book.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
In my mind's eye, I thought that the denial of the whites dragged on for quite some time. Mm-hmm. I forgot that they, show up in the castle, in the commander's bedroom, fairly early on in the story. So not only was it a really great chapter to read and really well written and exciting and terrifying and all that jazz, but it was a nice surprise to have this kind of action so soon. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's good stuff.
All right. Well, I just want to say hi to new patrons real quick before we wrap it up. This week we have Hannah Carlotta. I always want to roll my R when it's a name that ends in Ota, and I cannot do it. This is like, for me, the major proof that I'm more white than Hispanic is that I can't roll my R's. I don't feel like I get to identify as Hispanic if I can't roll my R's. So anyway, Hannah, Carlotta, and Kimberly all joined this week. So welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for becoming patrons, hopefully you joined the Mighty Network. There's also the Facebook group and the Discord. I'm not sure how active the Discord is. I'm not in there often. It was being used mostly for Animal Crossing, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I am just, I had a memory on my Facebook the other day of being really excited that I had reached like 90 patrons or something. And I think now I have like 750, something like that.
Oh.
Yeah. And, I am keenly aware all the time of how much better I'm doing now. Like, financially, I just feel so much more stable, and something could go wrong and I wouldn't be absolutely fucked like I would have been a couple years ago. But when I see the, like, stark numbers like that, it really is bonkers how far I have come. And every single person who signs up, it's just always really exciting for me. I'm just like, oh, a new one. Hi. And I wish that I had time, because I would like to be able to reach out to people more when they first sign up, but I just don't have the space to like always do that. But I want you all to know that when you do, I notice, and I'm really trying to make an effort to read everybody's names so that that's clear that I notice, because I know that it sort of felt like maybe she doesn't give a fuck. And that's my bad. And just reminder that Owen and I, the last episode of Core is going up this week, and I feel like it was a really fun one to record. We took a lot of questions and just like, who's your favorite character? What's your favorite moment? What do you think about this and that? And it wound up being really fun to record on, even though the actual finale episode was not what we were hoping for. It wasn't bad. It was just sort of like, considering it's a series finale, it wasn't as big as we thought it would be. But it was still really fun to talk about, and it really, once we began to discuss Korra as a whole, it just put into perspective how much we expect from the show, because it has been so good. So that's sort of why we can be hard on it. But I really enjoyed Korra a lot, and it's one of those that I'm confident I'm going to go back and rewatch.
Oh.
So that's going to come back this week, or that come out this week, and then next week is when Owen and I are going to be starting our Clone Wars coverage, and I'll be posting the watch list in the groups and pinning them to the tops of the groups in like the Patreon group and Mighty Network and stuff, so that if people want to watch along, they'll know, because we're not watching them in order. Allegedly, that is just a bad idea and super confusing. So we're going to be watching them in an order that we haven't totally settled on yet, but we're getting suggestions from a couple of different people and sort of looking at what seems consistent in both and taking that advice. So keep an eye out for that. And Miles and I are still in the midst of the second Mistborn book. And yeah, that's been quite a ride also. And for Spoil Me, I just wrapped up Dark. I'm not going to get into it, you guys. But I was really mad. And every time I start to talk about it, I get so angry all over. So I'm not going to do it. But I wrapped it, and it's done. And I've started The Haunting of Bly Manor, which has been super fun. And Broadchurch, which, this show, that's a good one. I'm really excited about that. Upcoming, I'm going to be beginning One Piece, which is a anime. And what's the other thing? Fleabag. Fleabag's coming. That's on the docket. So if you're interested in those guys, keep an eye out on the Spoil Me feed. And you can commission episodes. If, you're getting impatient because it's taken too long between episodes, you can go to unspoiledpodcast.com/shop and choose just, whatever TV or book episode and commission one for me to carry on with the series that you're enjoying. So that's how that works. I think that's it.
All right.
Is there anything else you want to add, ma'am?
No, ma'am.
All right. Well, thank you guys again so much. We love you. And until next week, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.